I just, okay. I'm ready for my close-up. Oh, wait, I just need to fix my filter. Okay, great, perfect. Oh, it's not good enough? Should I come back on? I mean, I came in backwards and in high heels, Ginger Rogers style. Do I need to do a moonwalk too? Okay, yeah, just take off my shoes. It's exhausting. Prancing around, posing, especially in high heels. But that's what's expected of us, right? Shoot for the moon. Well, what's wrong with the earth? Years ago, I met a filmmaker who just made a documentary about the Bushmen in Africa. And after filming, he brought two of them to Cape Town to show them a city which they'd never seen. And as they took in the skyscrapers and accomplishments around them, what they noticed most, they said, we can't feel the earth. We're all so busy building skyscrapers in our minds, caught up in this crisis of perfectionism, that we've forgotten the foundation right at our feet and within us. We are trapped in a glass house. And who am I to talk to you about this? Good question. I am a recovering perfectionist trapped in the same glass house. Now, as an actor by trade, I understand that flaws are what make characters compelling. But in real life, I'm afraid to shatter. Preparing for this talk, for example, pushing up against fears of performing and presenting imperfectly, a friend of mine said, "Oh, you got this, don't worry. You went to Harvard, you're a ballerina, and you landed in Hollywood. You're perfect." And I thought, therein lies the rub. Projection. And I'm playing into it. How would he know that right now I'm navigating a midlife chrysalis? That is my compassionate reframe for exploring ego dissolution. How would he know that that's what's happening to me? Because I'm not sharing it. The struggle is real. I guess I'm sharing it now. But I haven't been sharing it on social media. Meanwhile, I'm staring at my feed, looking at the next woman, projecting perfectionism onto her, and on it goes. We are stuck in this infinity mirror of disillusion, armoring ourselves with perfectionism and filters, and afraid to expose our raw truths, because we live in this constant real-time feedback loop. Studies show adults spend 2.5 hours a day on social media, teenagers 4.8, with teen girls, unsurprisingly, taking the cake at 5.3 hours a day. Add that up, that is 40 days a year for adults, double for teens. Now, in the Bible, Noah saved humanity in 40 days. In reality, a little different, but think about it. What could you do in 40 days if you weren't so busy consuming the perfect lives of others? Write a novel, just watch a field of flowers blossom, fall in love, or just have a whole lot of sex. Endless possibilities, all lost to seeking unattainable ideals. Voltaire says, familiar quote, "Perfect is the enemy of good." I know that I became my own worst enemy in my quest. What if we sought imperfection instead? So here I am, trying it on for size, sharing a few personal pitfalls in my quest for perfectionism. I grew up in the 80s, a time when women could finally shatter glass ceilings and manifest our own destinies just like American men. Certain American men, but that's a whole other TED Talk. We just had to look perfect doing it. And for me, a ballerina growing up in the South, rooted in puritanical morals with the privilege to dream big, I was primed to live up to the high expectations. And I did. I was so committed to my dreams of sugar plum perfection, in fact, that when I played Clara in the Nutcracker, every 12-year-old ballerina's dream, and then encountered sexual abuse at the hands of a chiropractor that the ballet had sent me to, I never told anyone. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to perform with a scarlet letter on my tutu. So I buried that trauma. I buried it so deep in my subconscious, in fact, that I didn't even have memories of it until I was in my 30s, when it started to seep through in therapy and other healing work that I did. But the show must go on, right? And onwards I achieved, twirling my way through A+s and arabesques all the way to an iconic Ivy League. And there, among many great experiences, I also suffered multiple date rapes, and I never reported them. In part because the lack of support for women voicing such things at the time, and in part because the experiences themselves were incongruous with my own visions of the perfect life I was supposed to be living, to the point that I started to question if I had even said no. Until one of them, a year later, apologized by email from a Tibetan monastery. That felt good. Validating. Meanwhile, onwards I waltzed, all the way to Hollywood. And what better playground, what more perfect playground, for a master contortionist of mind and body. As an actor, I was ready and eager to play any role. The problem was I was doing it in my real life too, playing into other people's projections and my own high expectations. And I buried the shame of Me Too moments, eating disorders, and depressive dips. My story is one of many. It's no wonder that Ozempic and injections are such a hit. But filters fade, and our cover-ups catch up with us. Mine did in my 30s, as I was settling into a career as a working actor, not the starlet I dreamt of being, struggling with my feelings of failure. My subconscious started to bubble up, and I started to have reactions in my body and nervous system that I could no longer ignore. Nathaniel Hawthorne says it best in The Scarlet Letter. She could no longer borrow from the future to ease her present grief. So the good news about the collapse of my curated existence is that I turned to the internal quest. The bad news, I fell into some traps. The thing about the spiritual world is it is as rife with egos as the material one. Hello, spiritual materialism. And being the perfect seeker, I made for the perfect prey. The only thing I haven't done yet is join a cult. I actually went so far as to hire a shaman to heal my failing long-term relationship, only to have the shaman fall in love with my fiance. That is a surefire way to realize the guru is not on the outside. And force me to face the music. I was actually just stuck in another cycle of perfectionism. I was trying to fix my internal realm, still in an attempt to manifest, as they say in the spiritual world, my external destiny. So, how do we put down perfectionism? How do we break out of the imposter syndrome, cycles of shame, and being our own worst enemy? Well, what I have come to is nothing new. It has been touted by certain religions and indigenous cultures for millennia. I just had to take the really long, roundabout way, break down the skyscrapers in my mind in order to come to my own embodied experience of the wisdom of the Bushman. Barefoot works for me. Be of the earth. Root yourself. Sit. Sit with all the uncomfortable parts. Breathe through the unraveling and return to your uncontorted essence and discover the symphony in your own silence within. Find your own way to that. Yeah, it's barefoot for me. Well, preferably barefoot next to a glacial lake that I can jump into naked. Also, interpretive dance parties in my living room, snort laughing with friends, and collapsing into a tub of tears, letting it all drain away. Those are just some of the pathways that I've found back to myself. And it is a process, as well as a daily practice that I have not perfected. In the Japanese art of Kintsugi, they glue together broken pottery. They glue it back together with gold. Instead of disguising the cracks, they celebrate the imperfections. That's the storied life of the object. What if we could look at ourselves in the same light? What if, instead of hiding it, we celebrated our flaws as our gold? Highlight them and let them shine. What if, since we are still inside of this collective glass house, I am, instead of trying to shatter the ceiling, we just learn to dance barefoot for all to see? Instead of seeking perfection and contorting and filtering and polishing ourselves into submission, we invert the equation. Imperfection, the new ideal. Because in sharing our raw, lived selves, we reclaim our power. So let's lead with vulnerability. Let's reframe imperfection not as failure, but as fuel for radical self-acceptance. And not just for ourselves, but for future generations. That is freedom. Thank you.